You're about to see 10 fake websites that are real, documented, and verified, actively scamming Americans right now. Not hypothetical examples, not old warnings recycled from years ago. Real domains, real victims, real dollar amounts, some reaching into the tens of thousands, lost to sites that look completely legitimate right up until the money disappeared. Before we get into it, if you're new here, hit that like button and subscribe with the notification bell turned on, because I verify every single scam I cover directly against real consumer protection sources, and I break down the new ones the moment they're confirmed. If you shop online for anything, this is exactly the video you need to watch before your next purchase. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which sites have been verified as fraudulent, what they impersonated to look real, and I'll give you 3 habits that protect you from all 10 of these and the hundreds more just like them. What ties every single case on this list together is worth saying up front. None of these sites succeeded because their victims were careless or foolish. They succeeded because they were built specifically to exploit the exact same instincts that make online shopping convenient in the first place. Trusting a familiar-looking name, trusting a search result near the top of the page, trusting a tracking number that looks official. Let's start with number 10. At number 10, cheapfurnituredeals.com, a site that surfaced through a paid Google ad specifically designed to look like it was coming from a massive, trusted furniture retailer. According to a report filed directly with the Better Business Bureau's Scam Tracker in April 2026, a shopper searching for a simple bed frame found what appeared to be an official sale page branded to look like it belonged to a major furniture company. The victim placed an order and, shortly after, received an email claiming the item had shipped, complete with a tracking number. That tracking number led to a completely separate, unrelated tracking site, one commonly reused across multiple fraud reports, and the bed frame never arrived. Here's the detail that makes this one worth knowing. The victim didn't find this site by clicking a suspicious link in a text message or email. It came up through a normal Google search, dressed up convincingly enough to pass a casual glance as an official retailer's page. The BBB report is still active and publicly documented as this video is being made. What makes this particular case worth leading with is how ordinary the entire experience felt right up until the moment of realization. There was no dramatic red flag during checkout, no obviously broken English, no missing security padlock icon. The victim did everything a reasonably careful shopper would normally do and still ended up filing a fraud report with PayPal weeks later, waiting to find out whether any of the money would come back at all. You won't believe what's coming up next, because this one didn't just borrow a familiar look. It borrowed an actual company's name and logo directly. Number 9. FurnitureSale.shop, and this one goes a step further than the last, lifting the actual name and logo of a real, nationally recognized furniture and home goods retailer without any authorization at all. According to documented security research, this site specifically claimed to be running a store liquidation sale using the language and branding of a real company to convince shoppers they were getting deeply discounted merchandise from a retailer they already trusted. Shoppers who placed orders were asked for full payment and personal information, including card details, and received no confirmation email and no tracking number after paying. The item in every documented case never arrived. This is a direct example of what's called brand impersonation fraud, where scammers don't just design something that looks generically legitimate, they specifically steal a real company's actual identity to borrow trust the scammer never earned. The real retailer has no connection to this website whatsoever and receives no benefit from the fraud committed in its name. It's worth understanding why this particular tactic works so well. A shopper who already knows and trusts a specific retailer isn't evaluating the website with fresh skepticism. They're relying on years of prior positive experience with the real company, experience the scam site borrows without earning a single bit of it. That borrowed trust is the entire product being sold here, far more valuable to the scammer than any single furniture sale could ever be. I'm sure you've seen a version of this next one, because it targets a brand that's genuinely massive overseas but has one very specific gap here in America. At number 8, sportsbrands.shop, a site built specifically to impersonate a major UK-based sporting goods retailer that has no official presence in the United States at all. This particular retailer operates hundreds of real stores across the UK and Europe, a genuinely massive, recognizable brand. But in the United States, there is currently no official store, physical or online, operating under that name. That gap is exactly what a site like sportsbrands.shop is built to exploit. presenting itself as an American extension of a brand that millions of people recognize, offering name brand trainers and sportswear at prices dramatically below what you'd find anywhere legitimate. The mechanics match a well-documented pattern across similar impersonation sites. Stolen product photography, copied branding, checkout pages that function normally right up until payment, and then either nothing arrives or a cheap, unrelated substitute item shows up specifically to complicate a chargeback dispute later. The real company has repeatedly had zero involvement with sites like this one, and shoppers searching for the brand's name online have no reliable way to distinguish a site like this from the real thing without independently verifying that the company has no official US operation in the first place. This case is a particularly clean illustration of a gap that scammers actively look for. A brand doesn't need to be obscure or unknown to become the perfect target for impersonation. It simply needs a mismatch between how famous it is and where it's actually allowed to sell you something. A mismatch most shoppers never think to check before typing in a card number. You're not going to see this next one coming, because it doesn't even bother faking a real product. It fakes the delivery of a product you already paid for. Number 7. A seller operating under the name Omelik Limited, documented directly through a live BBB Scam Tracker report filed in July 2026. According to the complaint, a buyer placed an order and received a tracking number linking to a site called 7detrack.net. When the buyer followed up because the tracking status hadn't updated, the seller responded with reassurances that the package was still in transit. Days later, when the buyer pushed further, the seller sent an entirely different tracking link, this time to a separate tracking site, now claiming the package had already been successfully delivered. The buyer disputed this directly and clearly in writing, stating plainly that no delivery had ever occurred. What makes this case such a clear documented example of the tactic is how visible the entire exchange is, preserved directly in the public complaint record. The seller didn't simply go silent, it actively generated new, different tracking information each time the buyer raised concerns, a deliberate strategy to stall the dispute process for as long as possible. This particular case is valuable precisely because it's still publicly readable, word for word, in the complaint record. It shows exactly how a scammer manages a buyer's growing suspicion in real time, offering just enough of a response to delay an immediate dispute without ever actually resolving anything. That pattern of partial evasive responses is often a stronger signal of fraud than silence would be, because outright silence tends to trigger a dispute faster than a seller who appears to still be working on it. This next one might be the most emotionally difficult entry on the entire list, because it doesn't just take your money, it sells you a heartbreak that was never real to begin with. At number 6, DarleyEnglishBulldogs.com, a fake breeder site documented in the Better Business Bureau's official puppy scam study. According to the BBB's own investigation, a father agreed to pay $650 to purchase and ship an English bulldog puppy for his daughter through this exact website. Before completing the payment, his daughter grew suspicious of the unusually low price and ran a reverse image search on the puppy's photo. The exact same image had been posted online 8 years earlier, proving the dog pictured wasn't actually available for sale and quite possibly wasn't connected to this seller at all. This case is specifically cited by the BBB as a real, verified example within a much larger pattern. The organization's research found that at least 80% of sponsored advertising links appearing in online searches for pets may be fraudulent, and separate tracking has flagged over 1,000 fake pet sellers in a single year alone. What stands out about this particular case is who caught it and how simply. It wasn't a fraud investigator or a security researcher who exposed the scam. It was the buyer's own daughter, using a completely free tool available to anyone, a basic reverse image search applied at exactly the right moment before any money changed hands. That's a genuinely important detail, because it proves the tools needed to catch this category of fraud aren't specialized or expensive. They're already sitting in everyone's browser. You'll be surprised by the next one, because it shows the exact same playbook running against a completely different breed with a completely different, equally fake backstory. Wait, before we continue. Right now, while you are watching this, someone might be tracking every website you visit, every search you run, and every message you send. Your internet provider, your router, that coffee shop Wi-Fi from last Tuesday, all of it logged. All of it for sale. NordVPN fixes that. One app encrypts your connection, masks your IP, and now includes a built-in antivirus that blocks malware and phishing in real time. Over 9,500 servers, up to 10 devices, dark web monitor included. Check the link in the description and get 76% off right now, plus 3 months free. Now back to the video. Number 5. PremiumRottweiler.com, another verified case documented directly in the BBB's puppy scams investigation. According to the report, a retired postal worker located a Rottweiler puppy through this website and, after a period of texting and emailing with the supposed breeder, sent $702 through MoneyGram to cover the dog, shipping, and a travel crate. The payment was sent to an individual claiming to be located in Worthington, Ohio. No dog ever arrived, and further contact with the seller became impossible once the money had been sent. The specific payment method here matters enormously. MoneyGram, like wire transfers and gift cards, offers essentially no path to recovery once funds are sent, which is exactly why fraudulent sellers across this entire category consistently steer buyers toward these exact payment types rather than any method that could later be disputed or reversed. This next one might surprise you, because it's not selling a product at all. It's selling admission to an experience that was never actually available. At number 4, TicketCenter.com, a site with a documented, publicly viewable complaint filed directly through its own Better Business Bureau business profile. According to the complaint, a buyer purchased 2 tickets to a Phantom of the Opera performance after the site appeared as the very first result in a Google search, leading the buyer to believe they were on the legitimate venue's official box office page. Only after completing the purchase did the buyer discover the real venue hadn't even begun selling tickets for that performance yet, and that other legitimate ticket platforms were pricing similar tickets at 2 to 3 times less than what had just been charged. This case matters because of exactly where the deception happened. It wasn't a shady link in a text message or a suspicious email. It was a paid or highly ranked placement sitting at the very top of an ordinary search result, in the exact spot most people trust the most, without a second thought. There's a broader lesson buried in this specific case that applies well beyond ticket sales. The order of search results is not, by itself, any kind of legitimacy filter. Ranking near the top can mean a business paid for advertising placement, and advertising placement is available to fraudulent operations exactly as easily as it's available to real ones. Trusting position in a list of results the same way you'd trust a personal recommendation is a habit worth breaking entirely. Coming up next is a version of this same ticket scam that doesn't even bother building a website at all. Number 3. A Facebook page currently operating under the name Kane's Verified Tickets, previously run under a different name entirely before local news coverage forced a rebrand. According to reporting from a North Carolina news investigation in June 2026, the page was originally operated under a different individual's name, accused of scamming multiple buyers out of money, in one case as much as $3,600, while selling tickets to major sporting events. After the story aired publicly, the original Facebook profile was deleted, but the same operation resurfaced almost immediately under this new page name, with the same administrator still actively involved, also connected to other so-called verified ticket-selling pages targeting different sports and events. This case is particularly important because it demonstrates something worth understanding about all 10 entries on this list. Getting one fake page, or one fake website taken down, rarely ends the operation behind it. It simply forces a rename, a relaunch, and a fresh batch of buyers who haven't seen the warning yet. This next one takes everything from this list, the fake urgency, the fake legitimacy, the fake trust, and applies it to one of the largest purchases most people will ever make online. At number 2, auctionsinfinity.com, a site that specifically impersonated the name of a real, legitimate auction business currently operating in South Dakota. According to a Better Business Bureau investigation covered by local news in July 2006, this site posed as Infinity Auctions, listing a Rapid City address that investigators confirmed the business does not actually operate from. Reverse image searches conducted by investigators found that vehicles listed on the site had already been sold years earlier through completely different legitimate auction platforms, meaning the inventory itself was entirely fabricated. After winning an auction, buyers were pressured to wire payment before any verification could take place, with some also charged additional delivery fees for vehicles that never arrived. 2 documented victims reported combined losses of nearly $48,000. The real legitimate Infinity Auctions business has no connection to this fraudulent site whatsoever, and was itself a victim of having its name and reputation stolen to lend false credibility to a scam it had nothing to do with. This case is a genuinely important reminder that impersonation fraud has 2 sets of victims every single time it happens. There's the buyer who loses real money, and there's the real business whose name gets dragged into a scam it had absolutely nothing to do with, left to deal with confused, angry customers and a damaged reputation it did nothing to earn. And now, the final entry on this list, the one with the single largest documented loss of everything we've covered so far, Nations Remarketing Group, taking the number 1 spot, a fraudulent operation calling itself Nations Remarketing Group, responsible for the largest individual dollar loss documented across this entire list. According to a Kansas News investigation published in March 2026, this operation used the stolen identity of a real legitimate Kansas business to appear credible, listing vehicles at prices deliberately set below market value to attract buyers quickly. One victim, a woman in Arizona, wired $76,015 after being sent what looked like a legitimate shipping confirmation and an estimated delivery date. When that date came and went with nothing delivered, she attempted to make contact again. The phone number had been disconnected. The email bounced back undelivered. This case earns the number 1 spot not just because of the dollar amount, though $76,000 is a genuinely devastating loss for anyone. It earns this spot because it demonstrates, in one single documented case, every single tactic covered across this entire list working together at once: a stolen real business identity, a price built to move fast, a fake shipping confirmation designed to buy time, and a complete, total disappearance the moment the money was gone. If there's one single takeaway from every case in this video, it's this one. The scale of the purchase doesn't change the playbook. Whether it's a $65 puppy fee or a $76,000 vehicle wire transfer, the exact same 5 ingredients show up every time. A stolen or borrowed identity, a price designed to create urgency, a payment method that can't be reversed, a fake confirmation to buy time, and a disappearance the moment reporting the fraud would still matter. Learn to recognize those 5 ingredients once, and you'll recognize them in every version of this scam you ever come across again, regardless of what's actually being sold. Here's the good news. You don't need 10 different defenses for 10 different websites. These 3 habits protect you against this entire category of fraud at once. 1. Verify the actual business independently before you ever pay, never through a link the seller gave you. Search the business name directly, check whether the brand you think you're buying from actually operates in your country at all, and look up the business through the Better Business Bureau's Scam Tracker before entering any payment information. This single step alone would have stopped at least 5 of the 10 cases covered in this video before a single dollar changed hands. 2. Run a reverse image search on product photos before you commit to buying. This single free step has exposed stolen photography across nearly every case documented in this video, often instantly revealing that the exact same images are already listed somewhere else entirely, sometimes years earlier. It takes less time than reading a single product description. 3. Never pay through wire transfer, MoneyGram, or gift cards for anything purchased from a business you've never used before. Every single verified case in this video that resulted in a real financial loss involved a payment method specifically chosen because it couldn't be reversed. A legitimate seller can be paid through a traceable, protected method. A seller who insists otherwise has already told you everything you need to know, regardless of how convincing everything else about the transaction seems. That's 10 verified, documented fake websites currently scamming Americans, and 3 habits that protect you from this entire category of fraud. Every single case in this video came directly from public Better Business Bureau reports, published news investigations, and documented consumer protection research. Not speculation, not guesses, real cases with real victims, each one linked and sourced below. If this helped you spot something before it could cost you, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me if you've ever come across a site or seller that felt just a little too convincing. Share this with anyone in your life who shops online regularly, because the difference between becoming victim number 1 and reading about victim number 1 is often nothing more than knowing these patterns exist in the first place, and knowing them costs you nothing but the next few minutes of your time. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because I'll be right here verifying and breaking down the next confirmed fake site the moment it's documented. Stay sharp, stay safe, watch the next video.